Good day to everyone. It's that time again for Shelf Life Book Reviews online. Thank you as always for coming along to watch my videos. Hopefully you've found some informative book titles and that you have heeded my recommendations. Anyways, once again, I'm bringing to your attention two great fiction books. Hopefully, as always, you will consider them when you make your book buying choices. The first one this time out is Real Easy by Mary RUTKOSKI. This is published by Henry Holt and it retails for $36.99. This is a very complex psychological murder thriller. The book revolves around a strip club called The Lovely Lady. And men come, lonely men come, and the book really, besides being a murder mystery, looks at the lonely world really of the strip club, the people who are part of the club, and the men who come. But first things first, there's a woman there, and her name is Samantha Lind, and she goes by the strip name of Ruby, and she's one of the most popular strippers at the club. She makes more money per night than anyone else. And she has a boyfriend named Nicholas, and he has a daughter named Rosie. And he's not the greatest guy, but Rosie really adores Samantha. So a new girl joins the club. Her name is Jolene, and she goes by the name of Lady Jade. So one night, Samantha and Jolene are ready to go home. Samantha's going to drive her home, and they start out, but neither make it to their destination. She wants to drive, Jolene to her apartment. So the next morning, a police officer by the name of Detective Victor Amador, he comes across the car at the side of the road. It seems to be abandoned. The seat belts have been cut. And then not too far from the car, they find the body of Jolene. She has obviously been murdered, but there is no trace at all of Samantha. The question is, where is Samantha? Their purses are still in the car, so it wasn't a robbery. So this brings another detective, Holly Malin, and she is part of the investigative team as well. So Victor Amador and Holly Malin start looking into the strip club and those who were part of the culture. They wonder whether it was one of the customers who had stalked them, followed them, and it really gets interesting because there is, as we see the culture there, we think, well, perhaps it's one of the men, but perhaps maybe it was a fellow worker that got jealous. Mary RUTKOSKI this is her first adult fiction book. She has written young adult fiction for all her career, and now she ventured into the adult fiction world. And it was a very smooth transition because obviously writing for young adults and big adults is very different. But she doesn't lose a step in writing this book. It is very complex, and like I said, it is filled with mysteries. And one of the things too, it does look, like I mentioned, at the world of the lonely world of the female in the entertainment business, and those customers who are lonely too, who need to go just to have close social contact with another human being. So it's real easy to see why you should add this book to your collection, because it is definitely a book that is complex. You'll be riveted right to the last page. So real easy, real simple. Go look for the book. And the second book of note is Margaret Truman's Murder at the CDC by John Land. This is published by Forge, and it retails for $37.50. Margaret Truman began the Capital Crime series several decades ago, and before her untimely death back, don't quote me, but I think it was 2008 or so. I could be wrong. Sorry if I am. But anyways, the series was continued first by Donald Bain. Now it's been taken over by John Land. And anyone who knows the name of John Land is familiar with the Caitlin Strong series, which is one of my favorite series of books. So John Land was the perfect choice for to continue the series. And in this, the second book that he has written, he adds an extra layer to the capital crime series. The book begins with a tanker truck with two military men in the truck in 2017. There's a horrible storm, and suddenly the lights go out in the truck, and the truck seems to disappear into the abyss. And so that starts it. So fast forward a few years later, and we know in the back of our mind this truck has something to do with it. But then on the steps of the Capitol, there is a shooter. Sound familiar? And he kills 18 people, and he runs away. And one of the persons who was shot, who survived, was the grandson of private investigator Robert Brixton. So he is brought into the case to investigate. Also, a Kelly Lofton, who was a Baltimore police officer, is now part of the Capitol Police Force. And there was a woman sitting there saying, that she should have stopped it. If she could have stopped this. And then after she leaves, they find traces of paper that have obviously fallen through a hole in her purse, and they're almost clues to who the killer is. Could she be associated with the killer? And why did this killer suddenly open fire on, actually, some of the victims were a school bus of children had come to the Capitol, to visit it that day. So anyways, as we find out, there's also a poisoning. And the woman who was poisoned, she wants Robert Brixton to investigate because she knows it was a setup, and he does investigate, and he finds out that there is more than this poison. In fact, there's a chemical called white death that only a few drops from this chemical can kill instantly. Now, we think back to this truck, what it was carrying. Well, it was carrying some of these chemicals. The whole transport that disappeared was carrying the chemicals that went into this white death. It's called on the streets the white death. And there's a man by the name of Dean Frank Wilhite, who is a radical who wants to change the face of America through radical activities. Sounds familiar too. And so he wants to create the ultimate bioterrorism by this white death, where people unsuspectingly touch a piece of paper that might have been sprinkled with drops of this horrible chemical. So it's a race against time with Robert Brixton and Kelly Lofton, who must find out how Frank Wilhite is behind all this and stop it before it spreads and millions of people could be potential victims. So Murder at the CDC is definitely ranks up there with some of the best books that Margaret Truman wrote. And John Land really continues this series well, but then again, he's a great writer. So those are the two books that I wanted to draw to your attention this time out. Hopefully you will consider them real easy and Murder at the CDC. So thanks for watching Shelf Life Book Review videos online. Please do send me your comments. I welcome them. And hopefully, if you do say something positive or negative, that I will take it to heart the next video I make. So until we meet again, stay safe, stay sane, stay social distancing, and stay in touch. Thanks again. Bye for now.